Okay, I have 6:29 on my watch. And I see that we're live on YouTube.
Are we?
Yes,
It didn't show up to say that we were online.
I see it from the screen here.
There you go.
There. But we do need a clerk. Oh, and there's our clerk.
Ta-da!
There we go.
Wait. Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening, everyone. Bienvenue à notre réunion spéciale du Conseil. Welcome to a special council meeting. Thank you to everyone for being here this evening. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Aucune déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire? None?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Conseiller Dan?
On May 12th, 2021, during a special meeting, Mary made a declaration of pecuniary interest regarding payment of your legal bills. Last week, you ruled when Councillor Rowley raised the issue, ruled that no one could force someone to declare pecuniary interest, and it's on their own conscience to do so. Last week, you did not do so. However, by not declaring, you're not adhering to our bylaws. We as council members have rules and policies in place and collectively have to adhere to them with no exceptions.
Conseiller Dan, thank you for the point of order that you raised, and I will state the same ruling that I provided last week. Section 11 of our conflict of interest does identify that it is the responsibility of every member to determine whether they are in a direct or indirect conflict of interest. It's not staff nor any other member of council to do a disclosure for someone else who's on council. And that's what the Conflict of Interest Act states. And that is the ruling that I am providing. Further discussion will take place on this subject matter. Conseillère Lise?
Well, I just want to state that, first of all, Monsieur Rabido, I would advise you maybe to go and look at the meeting because I made myself very clear, I'm going to speak for myself, not the mayor, that I said I was declaring at that meeting no conflict of interest on the discussion, and I will when it's time for the resolution. At that time, I had not had the information that I required to have. And first of all, we did not declare a conflict of interest because I said when it would be time to pay to support the resolution, and I changed my mind because I am not in a conflict of interest. And like I said, if you think I am, you do what you have to do, Conseiller Rabido. You have the right to do it. And like I said, I'm sticking to my gun, and I will talk about it too when we pass the
As
resolution.
identified, Conseillère Lise, the subject matter will be discussed further as we proceed throughout the evening, and a ruling has been provided to Conseiller Dan. In the interim, a mover and a seconder to be able to adopt the agenda. Conseiller Denis, Conseiller Yvon. Any objections? Aucune objection.
I gotta read it.
Oh, sorry.
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on June the 22nd, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection. None. Carried. Adopté. On procède avec committee. We proceed with committee. And there's one item under community services, service communautaire, and it has to do with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation funding for the museum, which dates back many, many years. And I'll pass it to Alyssa to walk us through the recommendation.
Thanks. So Yeah, we've had this loan for many years, and part of the financing when the museum was redeveloped was it was partially a forgivable loan and partially this loan that was funded out of a percentage of admissions. At the rate that we're paying it off, it's going to be around for many years. And in 2020, the NHFC expressed that they might be willing to entertain a discussion on forgiving the remainder of the loan. When I had some of the discussion with them, they did come back and say that they would generally only consider these types of arrangements if we offer some type of lump sum payout on it. But she didn't have any guidance as far as what was an acceptable lump sum amount there. So I provided kind of just some range of numbers, and I've used kind of that 6% because what we're paying right now is 6% of admissions, and that's the only reason I grabbed that number. I showed you what 10% would, just so you could have an idea of what we're looking at here. Keeping the loan on our books has a small impact on our ARL. It is just a small loan, though, so it has just a small amount. And so, we can just leave it and continue to pay it off in these small dribs and drabs as we go through the years here. At the time that council wants to have a discussion as far as, again, looking at the museum facility and looking at what the museum wants to be when it grows up and what kind of flexibility you want to have as far as, the pre-COVID, it was sort of heading towards a bit of a community event center and different things, then not having the structure of the loan over council may be beneficial. But that's so I'm just sort of looking for a bit of a guidance on how much to sort of suggest we might be willing to do for a lump sum to see if they will have a conversation about forgiving the rest of it.
Thank you, Alyssa. I'll do a quick roundtable with all members of council to be able to get their feedback pertaining to providing direction to staff regarding a lump sum payment, with the hope that the ministry will accept that and put closure to the debt that's been on our books since 1998. Conseil Yvon?
Thank you, Madam Yes, yes, I agree. It's something we certainly should look at. And I would, I would agree. Yes, I do wholeheartedly agree in trying to pay this off. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseil Yvon. Did you have a recommended range, or based on the recommendation 5 to 6 or a 10% lump sum payment?
Well, I'm looking at what was written here by Alyssa, and I think that lump sum payment of 12.5 would be reasonable.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chris?
So yeah, I agree.
And
The 2%, like the 5 to 6%, that's Lisa, that's like the least you feel comfortable saying, and so I would be in agreement and start at 5 or 6% and go all the way to 10 if need be, if there's a negotiation. Thank you.
thank you. Conseil Brolly?
Thank you. Yes, I'm also in agreement to the cheapest price possible to save our taxpayers some dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Conseil Leo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Rory and pay it off. And also just a question, across the road from the museum, do we own that, or is that Crown land where the parking lot and the trails are? Maybe Mel would know, I'm not sure.
Well, that belongs to the municipality. Is that correct, Alyssa? Yes?
Yes.
I believe yes. Mel's nodding too.
We own the property.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Conseil Liu, you made reference to pay off, but do you agree with the 5-6%, or would you go higher than 5-6%?
No, 5-6%, that's good.
Okay, thank you. Conseil Dan?
I agree with the position of everybody else.
Thank you. Conseil Denis?
Yeah, sure, I agree with everybody. 5 to 6 and up to 10% is fine.
Thank you. Conseil Alice?
Same here, up to 10.
Okay.
But
So-
Alicia, put your hat of a negotiator and go down to 2, okay?
So I think direction has been provided 5-6 with a leeway of, if need be, to negotiate up to 10%, and we'll see what the outcome is going to be. Thank you. Le prochain comité, travaux publics, Public Works, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Yvon.
Ton micro, Yvon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. We have one item on the agenda, and that is the discussion of Dovercourt land acquisition. And I see that, oh, there he is. There's Sean. Sean, if you can elaborate a little more on the situation, please.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, councillors, Madam Mayor. Through you, Mr. Chair. So as part of an ongoing, I guess, well, from petitions that council had received regarding Toronto Street, regarding through traffic on Dovercourt, the closure of the south end of Dovercourt. So I kind of kept that in the back of my mind and had an opportunity to discuss with the current property owner of the before last lot, I guess at the north end of Dovercourt on the east side. There's a vacant property there. So the property owner is willing to sell that parcel of land. It is a 20-meter wide parcel. So basically, the width that would be required for a road allowance. I then had a brief discussion with a developer that's going to be developing on the end of Nico Crescent. There were, in talks with that developer, there were a number of challenges for them as well, having to go and loop in the water main off of Highway 64. There were 4 existing lots that are currently on Highway 64, so access from Highway 64 would also have to be serviced from Highway 64. So I guess my question to council is whether there's interest in acquiring this parcel, and what this would do would allow the developers the opportunity to loop back in onto Dovercourt, and would also allow the municipality to kind of address the Dovercourt issue, the Toronto Street issue, by having the option then to close Dovercourt at the south end and having Nico Crescent kind of loop back at the top end of Dovercourt. It would also allow the developers opportunity to service their existing 4 properties off of the back. So basically the new road, the developers did agree that they would build the turnaround at their cost, the road at their cost, but they didn't have the appetite to sort of chip in on the purchase of the property. Because the reason I got was that there's extra cost. They have to go back to the drawing board for their design, but they would allowing or having this property would allow them to better phase in their development. So they would, in a sense, come in off of the top end of Dovercourt, build a kind of a turnaround in where would be a future corner of the road type deal. So basically, the current owner is in favor. It would obviously make his existing properties on Dovercourt probably more lucrative for him. So he was 100% on board. He is, he agreed with me that this was 100% logical. And the developers are also on board, but not on board for the purchase of the property per se. The current property owner is willing to sell the land at what he paid for it. So no profit. The cost was 50 to 55,000 for this property. It is a service property, so I think it's a fair market value. And probably low market value given what's going on with this pandemic and prices of properties. I think if council would opt to purchase this property, even if things fall through, we should give first right of refusal, obviously, to the seller. And I wouldn't. I think it would be a wise investment by council. But I'll leave it up to maybe the chair if he's got any questions, or if any councillors have any questions, or Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate what you've said. I guess we'll have to do our round here and see exactly how the councillors feel about what you've mentioned, and I guess we'll start with Chris Fisher.
So basically the cost is 50,000 for the property. Is there any additional cost to the municipality to make the turnaround, or am I misunderstanding? The developer makes the turnaround. That's the idea. So there's no.
You're correct. The municipal property would essentially become the road allowance.
Right.
Right. So, but the developer would, as kind of a phase one, build the road off of Dovercourt up towards their new development and kind of build a turnaround there as a phase one. And I guess, phase two, they would come back and tie it in off of Nico Crescent. Okay. That is my understanding in brief talks. Sorry.
Okay. So just to follow up on that. So contractually, how does that work? Somebody needs to help me out from a planning perspective, because I assume that, lots of that subdivision has been approved and it doesn't look like that. So how do we ensure that we get what we think we get? Understand the question?
I do. Maybe Melanie can chime in and help me out.
I would suspect, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, that we would have to get some amended design to the subdivision in order to incorporate this change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So my stance would be I'm fine with it as long as we get it all the ducks in a row, and it looks like it's getting before, like not buy the land, but make sure all the ducks in a row, and that it's going to happen, and then certainly then I would be in favor of doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. We'll go with Rowley, I guess. You're next.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm in favor of this. This area has been I guess a thorn in public works site and also the resident. The only way you done the right thing with closing the south end, because that was the only option at the time to remedy this problem. But now that there is another solution, it way makes more sense to block the north end, stopping the drive-through in there, and it would alleviate all problems, the overflow on 64. So I'm definitely in favor of this move. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley. So we'll go to Councillor Leo Meret.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I also agree with the recommendation from Sean. Yeah, and Rowley and all of them. I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Councillor Dan Ravita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in your discussion, in your preamble, Sean, you mentioned that it would be favorable for the developer by selling that lot, and then it would be more lucrative for him in his development of the other buildings that he's building now. This would imply that those who live on that street also financially, because you're not only going to be maintaining the value of those properties, you're going to make it more lucrative for them. So I agree. I think, Sean, it's a good idea. I compliment you in finding that solution for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. Madame Meres, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since we were on the subject of design, modification to the design, who's going to be absorbing the cost for the designed amendment? And will the design amendment be required to come back to council for approval? That's one question.
So the developer did agree to absorb the cost of redesigning the subdivision. That was kind of, at the onset, I was hoping that the developer would also be in favor of maybe contributing to the purchase of the property because of it seems like a lot of this they're going to benefit from. But after, they looked at their costs, the cost of building the road, building the turnaround, and redesigning the subdivision, that's when they said, well, we ran some numbers and it would just be too much for us to absorb even more cost to purchase the property. So, and I only found that out maybe a half an hour before the first meeting that we were supposed to have this conversation. So I was kind of left in the dark until the last half hour, but that's the information I have today. Now,
Okay.
As for whether the design goes back to council, Melanie can probably answer that. What's going to be the process there, Melanie?
Typically, as long as we're on planning, I know if there's any change in the initial, the design to a draft approval, it has to go back to council for a red line amendment.
Okay, because that really answers my subsequent question of how quickly can this happen? And when will the residents within the area of Dovercourt have that street reopen versus presently being closed? So the indicator will be that it needs to come back to council once the revised design is ready for council to adopt to be able to proceed with the next step. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And just trying to visualize the turnaround. The turnaround is not going to be on Dovercourt. It's going to be part when you turn into the laneway where additional development is occurring. So this will reopen Dovercourt and will also address the information, the concerns, the safety concerns that were shared to council regarding residents residing on that road that are trying to exit on Toronto Street. So basically, it's a win-win situation. So definitely, I do concur, and thanks for an active involvement on this file so we can hopefully reassure residents that we're addressing safety concerns and the accessibility from Dovercourt. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Medes. Decal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also in agreement, but I'd like to see a more concrete plan here. There's ifs and buts. I'd like to see something we can work with on paper. I just don't like this. They said, he said, and also they're going to shut down the exit at the north end of Dovercourt. Is that right?
Eastham.
Yes, that is correct. And maybe to elaborate on that, Councillor Sinical, we would of course have an agreement in place prior to purchasing. So this, the reason this is on the agenda is just to ensure that we have support from council to proceed. And once we have something papered, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So I'm in then.
Conseillère Lise Sénécal.
Well, hallelujah. I think it's a good solution. I think every day, I think we're playing with, how do you say that, Russian roulette with that exit on Highway 64. It's very dangerous. So cannot wait to have that for the resident also at Toronto will alleviate the traffic. And I think that was mentioned since day one, but it was not possible. Now it's possible. So thank you, Sean, for looking to that. I know the resident been talking to a few and they're very pleased because, I mean, it is a safety issue. And so I'm very glad to see that happen. Dovercourt have, that's one of the issue, but can somebody explain to me why there are 223 number houses number on Dover Court. There's two houses on that, that the number is 223 Dover Court. One is the one on top of the hill. And you have a big sign on the road, 223 Dover Court. And then there's a house which used to, that I own, was 223 Dover Court. So how can they have two numbers?
We can look into that.
Yeah, and then it's very even on, if you put your, what do you call that? When you go down your car, your,
GPS?
GPS, I mean, you cannot find it. Even my address itself for the East Link, it's at Toronto Street. So, and it's right on the, I was surprised. Somebody had told me that, and I said, well, it's impossible. You must have the wrong number, but you'll see there's a site, and I'm sure Councillor Dan must seeing it because he run by that every morning. That the house that used to be owned by Denis Toulouse on top of the hill, it's 223 Dover Court. And the house, my previous house on Dover Court was 223, so.
Thank you, Lee.
I'm getting check and they're going there and I'm not getting them.
Merci, Lee
But
Senecal.
very good. Thank you very much, Sean, for looking into that.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Sean, everybody is certainly of your thoughts, and I do agree as well. It's something we had discussed, but we had the method of doing it wasn't there, and with that new development, it's you know, it can be done, so it's great, and yeah, it's approved, and you have the go ahead to proceed. Thank you, Sean. Merci, Madame Beres. That finalized our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On procède avec planification planning, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Denis.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I think we have 4 purchases, and I'll just hand it over to our clerk, Melanie. She's the expert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first offer we have is actually from the owners of, and Councillor Lee, their address is 233 Dover Court. So maybe the sign's wrong, but the old house that you're speaking of is 233, not 223.
Okay, well then the sign is wrong now.
Could be wrong. Anyways, the first offer that I have is actually from the owners of that property. What they're looking to do is to sever that large property, to downsize and build a smaller home on that property, but would need access from Sabourin Road. And as such are looking to purchase what was originally the Northcote Avenue and Argyle Street road allowances that were set out on the old plan of subdivision. As indicated in my memo, they had, those lands were originally part of the discussions that I believe Mr. Toulouse was having back in the day, but I guess he determined not to buy all of the stuff that was declared surplus by council at that time. So those lands remain in municipal ownership, and these owners are seeking to buy those lands now, as I said, so that they can gain access to the rear of their existing property from Sabourin Road.
Any comments on that? Any questions?
Conseiller Denis, why are we not, your video is off?
Oh, well, wrong button, I guess. Well, doesn't matter. You know how nice I look.
Oh, God.
I'll have to log out and come back in after. So yes, any questions on those land purchases or dispositions? First one. So Melanie, I guess it's a go. Whatever you need a resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as I indicated in my memo, there's a bit of paperwork to be done, and I would just be now proceeding with getting an appraisal of the property and presenting that to the owner. So that's the next step. So appreciate your input on that one.
Thank you. And the next one?
The next one is property on Cache Bay Road. An owner is next to an unopened road allowance, the Lorne Street Road allowance, which was never opened because basically it goes up the hill and it doesn't go anywhere. On this one, there is a property behind the property on the other side. I've shown it in my sketch that's attached, and I wouldn't be supportive of selling this entire road allowance. I would only be supportive of offering half of it to the owners, simply because I would let the whole disposition would landlock the that one empty lot that's behind the property on the east side of the road allowance. So direction with regard to disposition of half of that road allowance.
Yes.
Mr. Rowley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in agreement not just to sell half, because we cannot landlock anybody. That wouldn't be right to do so. If we're gonna sell, I'd sell half.
Any other comments? Leo?
I
Councillor Leo?
also, I think, Mr. Chair, I also agree.
Okay. Councillor Lee Senecal?
Okay, but if you sell half, okay, it's not blocking, be able to go, but if they want, is that big enough that the remaining is big enough to do a road? If there's construction on that lot? I should ask the first question, is the lot belong to the municipality?
Yes.
Okay,
Road
well
allowance
then,
belongs-
what?
No, oh, no, the lot behind does not belong to the municipality.
Okay, so, but it's a lot itself, right?
Yes,
Okay, so if we sell half, the remaining, is that enough to do a road if somebody wants to build the?
the remainder would be 33 feet. It would never be an open road allowance like the one that we could maintain, but it would, I believe 33 feet would be sufficient to provide access to that lot if it were needed. But we could never, once we sell half of it, it can never be opened as an actual municipal road allowance. It's too narrow.
Well, do you think it's a good idea to sell it then?
I might defer to Sean and see whether or not there would be ever any indication of opening that road allowance.
Because I would hate to stop being able to do something if somebody wants to build there eventually. Is Sean around or?
Well, I don't think that's a Sean question, if I may. I think it's a council or an us question. If you have a lot in the back that will be landlocked by the sale of a lot, then you have to make the determination as to whether you ever want that lot to be sold or to be used. So I think what Melanie was proposing in her original thinking was kind of half getting some money for a lot, but maintaining the ability to have, the ability to sell a lot in behind. Was that your thinking?
That's
Mel?
it, yeah, we wouldn't want to landlock it, but it would still have access off of Cache Bay Road.
But that's not our lot.
No,
Okay, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I understand, so.
the lot in behind that I showed on my sketch.
Yeah,
And
what I
the
don't understand
green-
sketch, when it comes to planning mail, I'm sorry, but it's like a Chinese.
The green, the blue rectangle is the road allowance. The green square is the piece of property that is in behind that's vacant. If we sell half of the blue, there's still half left for someone to get in there to buy, to be able to get to their property.
So they would have to maintain the road though,
It would be a driveway.
a driveway. Okay, that makes a difference. Now I understand. Okay. Long driveway, but that's up to them. Yeah, okay.
Councillor Larrabee?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. How big of a property in the back are we looking at here? Is it a one?
66 by 132.
Okay, so it would be a normal lot. It would
Yeah.
not be anything that a person could subdivide or.
It's a
Okay,
normal
well,
lot.
it would be a long drive. That's okay. All right, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Out of curiosity, if we would not sell half of the lot, would the lot be conducive for a new build?
The whole road allowance?
Yes.
Well, that would block that particular, if we sold the whole thing, we would be landlocking that property at the back.
Okay. But there's no other usage for one to acquire the property for construction and providing a allowance and easement to ensure that the individual can access their property from the back?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay,
It wouldn't be, they would have to agree to have access to their property via only an easement rather than have
Okay.
direct municipal access.
and in the circumstance where it does affect a neighbor, do we notify the neighbor ahead of time that we received an offer for the said property?
Absolutely.
And that they also have the opportunity to provide a bid on the available land?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that used to be the legislation. Of course, we have to advertise that we're going to be selling half of it anyways, and we do have to notify. But there's no legislation that requires us to offer it to the next door property anymore.
Okay. The reason I question that is council in the past sold property and there were belongings to neighbors on the property that was sold. And if they had known that the property was being declared surplus, they may have possibly been interested in bidding on the property. So I feel more at ease. Like I agree that we can sell the property, but I feel comfortable that the adjacent neighbor that's affected by that would also be able to know that the property is going to be declared surplus and that we've received interest. And if they have interest in the property, that they should also, they would have to provide a bid on it. So it would be equal opportunity.
Through Mr. Chair, if you recall, we recently amended our land disposition policies such that now we have greater notification requirements, and this landowners on both sides will be notified of what is being proposed and have the opportunity to raise any concerns, or if they wanted to buy half of it themselves, they would be given that opportunity.
Okay. Then based on that, I would concur.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other comments before we move on? So are you okay with that, Melanie?
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Now we're heading to a third one.
Now we're going to field. Through you, Mr. Chair, this offer is for a pair of small lots that were acquired by the then town of Field at the time of the flood. These lots were, I'm assuming the owners were relocated up into the new subdivision in behind the bank. And these lots are vacant. As you can see, the owner that is requesting to buy the property owns everything around these two wee lots. They're just being proposed to be added to his property. They're not being proposed to be used for development as they are in the floodplain. And he just wants to square off the boundaries of his property.
Any comments? Madam Councillor Lee Senegal?
Well, just curiosity, like when you do that, you get an assessment to see.
Yes.
Okay, same process. Okay, thank you. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Melanie, you're good with that?
Good with that.
Next one.
So far, so good. Last one is a little bit more complicated. It is property that is located in behind Cash Street and in behind Levac Road. It's a landlocked piece of property that abuts a bunch of other properties, as well as a unopened road allowances that we also own. Today I became aware that there is municipal infrastructure on that unopened road allowance that abuts that piece of property. So, but that's not what's being asked for. What's being asked for is that lot. And since I have two bids or two requests from people, I'm recommending that if council determines they want to dispose of this, that we put this one out to a tender process, because it's there are competing interests, and it would be fair, I think, to make it an open bid situation. Get an appraisal, create a reserve bid number based on the appraised value, and then open it up.
Councillor Leo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question, Mel, so would we declare it surplus before we'd sell it?
Well, we'd have to declare it surplus before we are going to go ahead and get an appraisal on it. The appraisal would be required to set the reserve bid for the proposed tender.
Okay, I couldn't understand. Are you proposing that we declare surplus and then get an appraisal and then sell it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I've circulated it through the municipal departments, and there's been no indication from any department the municipality has any need of this property. It's landlocked. There's no access to it except from unopened road allowances that are unlikely to ever be opened. It's been in the municipal ownership since long time, like the early 1900s.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just to add, so that means it would solve the situation of the landlord?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Sorry, Mr. I don't quite understand what you're asking me.
Well, you say it's landlocked now?
Yep.
Okay, and what would be the purpose of?
Because the bids, the two persons that have expressed interest in it have abutting properties.
Oh, okay.
And that have road access. So it would be an add-on to one of these people.
Okay.
Whoever.
Okay, thank you. I'm in agreement.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm in agreement, Mr. Chair.
Melanie, is that the one isn't that already declared surplus sometime ago? Or,
no, that was the first one. This one has never been declared surplus.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Melanie, everybody's in favor?
No.
This one will proceed to a bid.
A bid, okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's it for planning. I'll give the floor back to Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Off topic, I'm seeing notification on my screen that's identifying network bandwidth is low. So I fear that maybe I'm going to get disconnected from the boardroom Zoom. But anyway, if that occurs, it means that it's a problem with the bandwidth in this room, because I've got that message twice now that popped up on the screen. So I'm just alerting everyone. Okay, we move on to the next committee, le prochain comité, Emergency Measures and Public Safety, Mesures d'Urgence et Sécurité Publique. And I'll pass it on to the chair, Councillor Chris Concierlis.
Well,
Yes.
just a comment what you're just saying. If you happen that you get disconnected, get your numbers close so you can connect by phone, Madam Mayor.
Yes, I'll look at another measure to be able to join in as quickly as possible. I'm just concerned because I've never seen that message before appear on the screen on the TV, and it appeared twice.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just get ready.
Thank you. So passing the next committee to the chair, Councillor Chris.
So I just have one item on the committee, and it is it's fireworks, and it was put on by yourself, Madam Mayor. So I'm just going to pass it right back to you, I think, and you can just explain your thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Reviewing the actual bylaw, there's always been ongoing concerns pertaining to fireworks that are done in backyards and high density area and mostly residential area. And there was a copy, an extract of Brampton News of their municipality on exactly one type of firework that they are banning in their community. And they are the rocket type fireworks that travel more than 10 feet from the point of ignition. Our bylaw is silent on that. And I do know that last year there were fireworks that were done in different communities, but in locations where it's high density, plusieurs maisons, une à côté de l'autre, and people have expressed fear of damage to their roof and also fear of potential fires. So I was hoping that council would seek endorsement that our fire chief look at amending or look into the issue with proposed amendments to council. And our bylaw is also silent when it comes to fireworks during a fire ban. And that was an issue that came up last year when due to weather, climate, dryness, there was a fire ban imposed by the ministry. And some municipalities allowed, and some other municipalities did not allow fireworks during a fire ban. So that's another issue that I would propose be considered as an amendment to the actual bylaw. And also, in circumstances where someone wants an exemption to what would be identified in the bylaw, well, then they would have to get an exemption from council. So there's always that opportunity. But the proposed amendment is a safety concern and to avoid risk of fire. And it's silent on that subject matter. So that's a summary of what's being proposed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So I'll go to a round table. I assume everybody will have something to say on this. Councillor Duhane. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I would agree. We should look at the bylaw, with respect to it's happened. The fireworks can create a fire and can do a lot of damage to property. So it's not. I agree. We certainly have to look at it and add it to the policies to prevent any occurrence of fire and whatnot, and have the fire chief work with that and make sure that it's well put together and keeping everyone safe is my generally concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Councillor Chris, Mr. Chair. Well, I cannot support banning fireworks that goes higher than 10 feet. That would be destroying the businesses in West Nipissing that sells fireworks. Everybody goes out for fireworks that goes up in the air and blows up and makes a nice cloud and colorful. So that I definitely cannot support that, but I could support the use of fireworks during a fire ban. Yes, definitely that would be a no-brainer. But beside that, that's as far as I would go with the fireworks policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Millet.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Rowley. And then maybe have the fire chief at one of our meetings and discuss the matter about fireworks. And of course, I mean, during a fire ban, I mean, there shouldn't be any fireworks. I mean, we've even canceled our own fireworks during a fire ban. So I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ravita.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, we don't live in Brampton, and Brampton is a very high density area, and we don't have that issue. The other point is I don't agree with banning the 10 feet like Councillor Rowley was saying that the mayor proposed, because again, we're taking away some liberties of individuals that just want to have fun once a year. The silence in the fire ban, I looked at it, but I thought it was just because it's just common sense. If there's a fire ban, then you can't light fireworks. That's why I thought it was silent. But no, we could send it to the chief and ask, but I don't see no real reasoning to change something that's been working in the past.
Excuse me,
Monsieur Barbeau wants to.
Chris?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Barber.
Well, yeah, I guess our fire chief wasn't asked to be on a special meeting, but is nevertheless interested. He's texted me indicating that he doesn't allow fireworks during a fire ban. There might be other legislation. I think the chief has powers, but for clarity, what I'll be doing is speaking to the chief, and if the fireworks bylaw is silent on it, since it's already being done anyway.
Okay, thank you. Councillor D. Seneca.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also agree that we should wait for a report from our chief. He should know what's going on, and he could probably give us support or advice on this. And I think we should check with him before making any decisions. Thank you.
Councillor Lee Seneca.
Well, it's because the municipality, like when we're talking, there's some, I would say, ward that maybe have a lot of distance, but when we get into town and we have big firework in the backyard, and I live that on Double Court, and it's very scary when you see in your backyard that all the thing is coming down. So in a residential, they should not have firework. There's place to go. There's the river, the museum they used to have, the Sunbeam, there's a place to go. We have the river that the town used to do it. But in a residential, I don't think it's any place to send firework. But like I said, another thing I would like to have legally, legal advice on that is that if a fire, something happened, like let's say, I don't know, on Bélanger or on Ethel or residential program, a section that there's a fire caused by firework, is the municipality would be liable to respond to that. We're not Brampton, we're not Toronto, but we have house that's really built very close by in the core. And even on ward number 2, Cache B and all that, very dangerous. So, but as far as I'm concerned, I think maybe the fire chief could go and get some advice on that, what we could do. So there's nothing like hurting that to ask.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. When I talk about fireworks during fire ban, when we did have a fire ban last year, the municipality released notification that fireworks were allowed, and we had a lot of constituents that were upset because they weren't able to do an outdoor fire, but they could do fireworks. So after reviewing the bylaw doesn't address restrictions pertaining to fireworks during a fire ban. So that's the reason that I brought that up, parce qu'il y avait une restriction pour des feux à l'extérieur durant une période où ce que le ministère avait imposé une restriction, mais la municipalité avait accordé la permission d'avoir des feux d'artifice. And I'm making reference, like Conseil Lise is saying, it may not be required an entire ban for the type of fireworks that exceed a certain height all over West Nipissing. My suggestion was for the safety concern of houses that are one beside the other where there are subdivisions, and that people have expressed complaints in the past when these fireworks were being released because they feared that it would create damage to their property or potentially create a fire. So that's the issue of why it was brought up, but it would be appreciated that the fire chief reviews it and comes back and gives us an update.
Thank you. Jay, did you have another comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking fire chief. I'm on the phone with the fire chief. And he has a difference of opinion from the mayor with respect to what was published last year. He clearly told me that he indicated that fireworks are not allowed. So we can argue about last year. What he's indicating, if that's his position now, then there isn't a problem. And what we can do is amend the bylaw. With respect to whether the chief feels there is an issue right now with respect to fireworks in general, he has indicated to me that he doesn't feel personally as the fire chief that there has been a cause for concern. That doesn't preclude council right now from coming to a, so the report from the chief ahead of time will be that he doesn't have any comments because he doesn't feel there's anything to address. That doesn't preclude council from making any adjustments to Mirror, Brampton, or wherever else. It's not illogical, certainly makes sense, but speaking as the chief supervisor, the chief has indicated that he does not allow fireworks during a fire ban. If that is unclear, then it should be made clear and it could be clarified in our bylaw. And secondly, if council wishes to make any amendment to the bylaw with respect to banning, that is a council decision, and the chief doesn't have a position on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I have a comment, and maybe I break this down and we'll take it to a vote. Take each. So I think there's three things. So I'm personally not a big fan of fireworks. They not because of the dangers. I mean, they're actually not very good for the environment and they scare animals. But having said that, you know, kids love them, and people do have property rights. So the other thing I'll note is the bylaw is pretty clear on the fact that they must be detonated and released safely, and the fire chief has discretion over finding people for misuse and that kind of thing. And the other problem with an out-and-out firework ban is you can have a fire ban and still use fireworks quite safely, because one of the best places to use fireworks is actually over water. So there's no problem using fireworks over water during a fire ban. So anyway, so maybe could I just get a show of hands who thinks we should ban fireworks in high density? One.
High density?
Yeah.
Mike.
Three. Okay, so no to that. Who thinks we should ban fireworks that travel over 10 feet high?
Where's the same?
One, two.
There's the same.
No to that. And then the third one. Okay, and the third one, who thinks we should tweak the bylaw so it says no fireworks during fire ban? 1, 2, 3, 4.
During a fire ban.
During a fire ban, yeah. Okay, so we could tweak the bylaw for that. So basically, just tweak the bylaw to say no fireworks during the firework ban. Okay, and I believe that ends my portion of the meeting, and I will hand it back to Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On procède avec le prochain comité, les égouts et l'eau, sewer and water, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Dan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll pass this on to Jay, as Jay is the one that brought it to the table. Please, Jay, can you
Thank
elaborate
you.
on this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think people are cutting out, so I hope you can hear me. Kind of a funny story. I occasionally relieve my stress by golfing early in the morning in Verner. And I got pretty, by a few people, pretty firmly told about an issue behind our arena with respect to our filling station. And the residents at that area were quite upset that the filling stations are actually not really being used for the intent that they should be, especially at that time of year, which was May, I believe May. And what they are seeing is individuals from a variety of different walks of life that are going to fill what they call big totes, but big containers containers, like truck-sized containers of water at the Verner filling station. And they express concerns from a variety of ways. And I have to personally, as an administrator, agree with the fact that I don't believe the intent is for that, and that the Verner water system is a very sensitive system in a variety of different ways. Obviously, manganese being one, which isn't necessarily this affected by this, but volumes of water and the types of treatment and the cost of treatment for water in Verner is more problematic. And in the summertime, in droughts, we're often having to shut systems down. Not often, but more often than we would like. And so, in my opinion, I believe that the costs or the downside is outweighing the benefits to keeping it open. The individuals also indicated, which is a fair point, when you have a small system, is that they pay, when we all pay about $1,300, they pay for that water. And people who are living just around the corner or what have you, or on trailers that, in trailer parks, because there's this one woman tracked some individuals, and these unlicensed areas that have a bunch of trailers are going to fill up their totes with water, and we're now supplying them water. And so in my recommendation, would be to actually turn that water off. I don't believe that the benefits there, given the fact that the people who are filling up are not the actual payers of that water. I believe that the solution, at least in the short term, until we can measure, gauge, what have you, is to turn that one off. Now, in bringing that to staff, they've also indicated that it's also a problem in Verner or Sturgeon by Goulard Park. But of course, in Sturgeon, we have the capacity to treat water, and and it's a much smaller percentage of water usage in that one than it is before. And so staff, I'm just updating you on that, is looking at options and solutions with respect to whether we can put a gauge on it, a timer, or this or that, so that people have a limit and or have to pay for it if you're going to be using it. The other colorful thing that I would say, I find it colorful anyway, is that the anecdotal information I'm hearing from folks in the office, staff, and others when we're talking in staff meetings is that they're actually promoting the fact that we have free water for your trailers and whoever come to Sturgeon and fill up. And so I was told by those who are local here that they see the same phenomena happening in Sturgeon. If council wants to discuss what they want to do with the filling stations in Verner and Sturgeon, they're welcome to do so. But my concern, as somebody concerned about our system and the issues that it's causing in Verner, politically and operationally, is my initial recommendation in the short term is to shut Verner down and have a look at whether there is another solution or what have you. So I leave that with you as an opening remark, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jay. I guess what this will have some discussion, and we'll go around the table. So I guess what we're looking at is there is a recommendation on the table that we close the one in Verner and that we have a look at the one in Sturgeon, but we'll divide it into two, piece it up, and we'll talk about the one in Verner. So, Councillor Yvon, I know you had your hand up. You're ready to talk, so it's up to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had previously talked to a councillor in the past with respect to Verner, and there is a method of utilizing the water there by means of having to pay for it. There are ways and means of doing that, and that would we were quite favorable in maybe bringing this to council and doing it, and I think that would work. My only concern in Verner, there is a dumping station there as well. Am I right, Jay?
Yes, you are
Yes,
right.
there is.
Okay.
Yes, there is. There are dumping stations in a variety of other places as well. And so What's happening now is they're basically hooking a hose up and filling not tankers, but big totes, And the volume and the amount that they're doing is really, and the woman showed me pictures. This one vehicle is going there about 3 times a day to fill up, I don't know, and farmers are using it to fill big totes. So it's not being used for the intent that it was originally envisioned.
I agree with you, Jay. I've seen them as well. But the only thing is a lot of times when you dispose of your sewage, you clean out your tank with the hose. And if we close off the water, they wouldn't be able to clean out their tank. So if we close the water, we'd have to close the sewage end of it as well. But I agree. There is tanks. People are abusing the system, and the only and we discussed it further. I would, Verner is sensitive to the water quality, and if with the massive use of water, it does create a problem with respect to chemicals. And look at it well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I grew up, and I'm going back 1,000 years here, but we had a trailer and we used to go camping. And I remember my dad cleaning up his system back home. So, it's not that we necessarily have to be providing the service for them. North Bay does not. And I'm not suggesting to take away the service altogether, Councillor Duhaime. But in this area where our system is sensitive, and that's why I'm saying let's leave where we can monitor a little bit more. It's nothing against trailers. We do have a Cache Bay, one in Cache Bay, I understand, and we have one in Sturgeon. So I'm not suggesting that we close all of them, but this one is problematic to this water system. Thank you.
Councillor Chris.
Close it. Thank you.
Councillor Rowley.
I would say close it, but also I would be supportive of a metered water system, so that way they would pay. It's a nice asset to have. But for now, the problem is there's no meter, so I would say close it until also that we get that water rectified in Verner. So close it, but let's look at a solution for everyone, like a metered system. Thank you.
Right. And certainly we, spoken to Steph, we had a meeting, Steph, Sean, Peter, and myself, and we are looking at options for that for Verner and definitely for Sturgeon Falls. So we are looking at what Councillor Duhaime has proposed. But in the interim, and given the summer months, and my recommendation is close it.
Yep.
Councillor Leo.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I also agree, close it. And, dumping station, you say it doesn't cost anything, but we have to pay to treat that sewage also. So we're paying on some of us are paying on both sides. So, and I know some people from North Bay, they come and dump here in Sturgeon Falls because you don't have no place in North Bay. But I agree. Thank you.
Mayor Joanne.
I have mixed feelings on this subject matter. I do know it's a problem. I did get phone calls from residents. I've seen photos as well, but I'm not entirely sure from what I've seen that it is the camper trailers that are abusing the system and taking that excessive water. I was, from what I had seen, told that they were cottage owners that are coming in with 200-liter tanks to fill those tanks for consumption at their secondary dwelling. I was also informed that there were some agricultural vehicles that were filling up their tanks also. And to that I'm completely in disagreement, because the objective of why the water was there was pertaining to the dumping station. And there's water that is available at other dumping station. I got complaints pertaining to having access to a hose, but the municipality does, to my knowledge, doesn't provide that service to any of our dumping stations. So I do agree that there has to be a mechanism to control the usage of the water and to eliminate abuse for what it was not intended for. That I completely agree with.
So,
But
Madam Mayor, do you agree? Do you agree with closing it? I think that's what we're talking about, to stay on
Well,
top.
before closing it, I'd like to find out what are the options. I think with water and sewer and with our staff that already had the discussion, I'd like to see what are the options to be able to control it. And I also want to remind my other concern with the availability of water there, signage. I don't know whether or not there's even signage identifying that the water is restrictive strictly, for the RV dumping. And in the event that you have a household in the community that does not want to drink brown water for consumption, sometimes people went there to find out what was the quality of the water, if it was different than their home. I saw that as a temporary measure until our permanent. I'm explaining my position, Conseil Dan, and I think I have the right to do that.
The rule of the thumb in any discussion is that there's a 5-minute time frame, and can we just move forward? You made your point.
Yes, Conseil Dan, I wish to move forward, my other point is it could be an opportunity where a householder within the community where their resident is located, that they may have a water problem, where they don't feel comfortable consuming it, and maybe at that end of the town, they can be able to have access to water that they would be able to consume. So before closing it, I'd like to see what are the options so we can mitigate the abuse, eliminate the abuse. And I've heard a gauge, I've heard a meter. I'd also entertain the fact of a possible camera where you have signage saying that you're under surveillance.
Thank you. Councillor Denis.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll have to hurry up. We're timed, I guess, for 5 minutes. I don't know where we got that, but maybe it's in our procedural policy. I didn't see it. But anyways, I don't agree that we should close it until we have a solution for the residents. No use closing it. I don't know. It sounds to me like it's hearsay. I've never seen anybody there, but there must be some. But I don't think the solution is to close it right now. It may be posted that if it continues, we'll have to close it, or until we find a solution, which I think would be mirrored water. So I think I'm about 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Denis. Thank you for respecting the 4 minutes. Councillor Lees.
It was not 4 minutes, but I do have an issue also to close it down. I am pretty sure that there is abuse because that, like anything else, I mean, when it's free, people take advantage of it and they don't think about further than they what the problem is doing, and that's why sometimes we have to react to it. But I mean, I like the fact that at this point of time may be signed to be posted that you're on camera, and the camera doesn't take long and it's not very expensive. Just the fact that there's a camera, there's a sign that's smiling on camera, and it's not to be used other to whatever, because it will, especially like in Verner, because there's obviously there's a still problem with the water. Summer's coming, they might have, but again, that could be solved also because they could call and they could be provide access to go if they have problem with their water. But I like to close something before we look at we have recommendation for potential solution. That's the only thing I have to say on that. And it did not take 5 minutes either. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. So in conclusion, there's 5 people that have basically agreed with the recommendation of the CEO that we close it. However, there was discussion that we should have a look at what's going on in Sturgeon, and perhaps we could, like Councillor Yvon said, implement a plan there. Because I know for a fact that when I pass there, I run all the time past that, there's a bunch of people that are filling up, and I know they're not from our municipality. So I agree that we should close it. Jay, you have a comment?
I have a
Well,
question.
yeah, I think that what I'm hearing is on an interim basis to ensure that the system is protected, that we close it on a temporary basis and look at options for sturgeon, but also for Verner to come back in order to look at whether that can be addressed, whether it be meters or what have you. But that's what I heard. And just to clarify, it isn't necessarily permanent, but it is certainly until a better solution could be addressed.
Question. Question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Okay, so when we say that temporary closure for Verner, do we have a proposed timeline, since we are in the camping season, of when those options will come back to council for consideration?
No. I, at a meeting like this, it depends on what the options are. And so potentially the July meeting, but I conceivably, but if I can't make the July meeting with staff schedules and so forth, then it'll be the August meeting. But certainly I know it's on the to-do list now.
Okay, so at the latest would be the August meeting. So what about the discussion for the sturgeon water at the dumping station at Gulau Park? When is that going to be tabled and discussed?
When it's available. So if I've got options to bring forward, then when that's available, it'll be brought forward.
So
probably.
I was going to say my final question on that subject matter is the recommendation for options for the usage of the water at Gulau Park for the dumping station will be brought at the same time. So there's not going to be a closure for the Sturgeon Falls location. We're going to look at options and bring those options to council for consideration. I just want to clarify.
That was my recommendation, yes.
Okay, so the difference between.
My answer is yes.
Okay, no, I was asking through the chair what was the plan, and I just wanted to make sure I understood what was the proposed plan between the distinction of Verner and sturgeon, but I understand the issue of Verner with the water quality. Thank you.
I think it's more than the water quality. I think it's the stress on in the water volume. So thank you, Madam Chair. I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
Merci. So I'm looking at my watch right now. It's 7:45. Do you want to proceed immediately with ongoing issues, or do you want a 10 or 15-minute recess? I'm leaving that to the discretion of council.
Well, it's about half. I would support 15 minutes right now.
Well, I would need a mover and a seconder and have a resolution and see what council's direction is. Councillor Lise as a mover. Councillor Chris seconder.
Mel?
My apologies. Are we looking at 10 or 15 minutes?
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Fisher at approximately 6:47 or 7:47 p.m. and motion was tabled for 15-minute recess.
Those in favor? Okay. Sorry, I'm missing the hands here. My apologies. Those in favor, show of hands, please. I do Torcat, Psych, carried. Adopted.
Rolly, your mic is still on.
8h03. For 16 minutes, Madame la mairesse.
Sorry, my system was on mute and I was talking to myself, but okay. So we move on to unfinished business, affaires en marche. La prochaine item de l'agenda E1, authorize members' legal fees. Mover and a seconder for the clerk to read the resolution. Conseiller Yvon,
Madam Mayor,
Conseiller Rowley.
no, Madam Mayor, I got a question on this. Which, could Jay clarify what's this bill?
Before having the discussion, we normally read the resolution, Conseiller Rowley. That's why I've asked for a mover and a seconder to proceed in reading the resolution.
Oh,
And then-
sorry.
It was moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved, the council hereby authorizes head of council to authorize and approve the following invoices payable to Kaza Sakaili, SRL LLP, invoice number 10765 in the amount of $7,020.36, and invoice number 10765 in the amount of $7,202.36.
Okay, my
No,
comment,
question.
just be patient, Conseiller Rowley. You'll have the opportunity to speak on the subject matter.
Sure.
Reviewing the resolution, as we are aware from correspondence that was shared with us, the correspondence was issued to the municipality. Clarification was sought by the municipality. The CEO came to council to seek council's approval for payment. Therefore, the resolution as written does not identify that specifically. And to authorize the head of council to authorize and approve the following invoices is not the case. This has to seek endorsement of council, and that was the direction that was given to us by the CEO. So really, I would remove head of council because it's a subject matter that needs to be authorized and approved by council and not by the head. It's council as a whole. So who agrees that the resolution stays as presented?
I'd like to have clarification through our CAO, please.
Oui, mais j'ai demandé une clarification parce que les factures, la correspondance a été envoyée à notre municipalité à l'attention de notre administrateur au début de l'année. C'est notre administration qui a communiqué avec la firme pour aller chercher plus de détails. C'est l'administration, notre administrateur, qui l'a porté à l'attention du conseil en disant que je serais plus confortable que ce soit, je demande voir c'est quoi la direction du conseil. Donc, la résolution identifie que le maire autorise et approuve les factures. C'est pas le maire, c'est le conseil Donc, la résolution qui devrait être votée est votée par le Conseil. Donc, qui est d'accord que la résolution demeure telle quelle parce que it should read that council hereby authorizes and approves the following invoices payable to. It's council that needs to vote on the issue. So what I am indicating is who agrees that the resolution remains as worded as presented to council.
My question would be, did council approve this expenditure?
That's what you're going to be voting on, Conseiller Rowley. It's council that will be voting on the issue. That's why I'm saying the resolution should remove the head of council. It is council that will either authorize or not authorize. So I'm asking council, because of the wording, who agrees that the resolution stays as is, as presented to council. Now, I don't see majority. I do not see majority raising their hand.
Jay had a comment. His hand was up for 5 minutes.
Conseiller Dan, I did not provide you with the floor. Please be courteous and wait to be acknowledged by the chair. So there's not majority that lifted their hands to say that they approve with the resolution as worded. Therefore, I am asking the clerk to remove the head of council from the resolution.
We didn't understand the question, Madam Mayor.
No,
We would like to have the
allow us to discuss it.
Conseiller Rowley, please wait until you are acknowledged by the chair. And if you disrupt in that fashion, I have the prerogative to ask you to abstain and leave the meeting. So, based on the question asked at 3 occasions, I've directed the clerk to ensure that the resolution identifies council hereby authorizes and approve the following invoices payable to. That is what council will be voting on. Now, at the beginning, there was a point of order pertaining to a conflict of interest. And I would like to raise that issue. And I will allow Conseiller Lise to speak on it because it's been 2 meetings that the issue has been raised as a point of order, and we'll clarify it. And then everyone will have their say before voting on the resolution. Conseiller Lise.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. C'est évident que c'est très clair de savoir que j'étais impliquée je suis une de ces personnes-là qui a un coût qui était associé. At the last meeting in camera, when we discussed that, it was discussion, it was a committee, and it was clear, and I stand by it, that I did mention when it's time for the resolution, I will abstain, declare a conflict of interest. So the last meeting, I did not declare a conflict of interest for the discussion, and I advise people to go and look if they want to. And if I did say that I was declaring a conflict of interest for the discussion, be it, but I'm not, okay? I am not in a conflict of interest. The check will not be payable to my attention. The fee that was encounter was regarding an investigation. The investigation came, it took 6 months. The investigation came clear. Nothing was found wrong on my part. It's not because everybody agreed on that, but that's what the investigator found. I had the right.
Well, I suggest you don't speak.
No,
I suggest
I'm not saying
please
any
do
names.
not speak to the investigation.
I'm just saying that
speak
I
to the
have the
investigation.
right to talk about me. It's me. And it's clear that it was us because Councillor Rowley did just that by identifying that which section that we should declare a conflict of interest. People of West Nipissing are not stupid. So I don't have a conflict. I'm the only one that can declare it. And I will not declare a conflict of interest on that invoice. And I never saw a resolution, since when is the mayor approving the expense? The mayor approved contract signing, I don't see that, so that's my say, and I will not declare a conflict of interest, and people have the choice to do whatever you want. I find it very particular that I really find it that it's a form of intimidation, and I won't take it anymore. I won't take it. If I do something wrong, I'm sure somebody will point it out and do whatever they have to do. That's the way I feel, and I have the right to feel that way. So that's my say, and when it's time to vote, I will vote on it. And the sad part on that, I won't fight for that. I won't fight for that because it's not under my name. I have the right to do it. So you can do whatever need to be done after and fight it up for us. Sad part, the municipality will probably have to pay more than that again. So that's my say.
OK, j'ai accordé la parole en premier lieu à Conseil Lise parce qu'au début de la réunion, il y avait un défi qui avait été lancé puis identifié qu'il y avait 2 membres du Conseil qui étaient dans une position de conflit puis qui s'abstenaient de déclarer un conflit. And when I based the ruling, I made reference to the Conflict of Interest Act and stated that that information would be brought up when the subject matter would be discussed. I'm not declaring a conflict on the issue for the vote based on information that was already shared. I don't have a direct conflict. There will not be a check that's going to be a payment issued to myself as Mayor Joanne Savage. There won't be an indirect gain either because the correspondence and the invoice was issued to the municipality by the law firm, and the correspondence from the municipality to the law firm to get clarification of details pertaining to the cost of the expenditure. If the invoice is not paid, the law firm will have options to consider to seek payment. And the sad part, it can become more costly to the municipality if there is recourse that's taken by the law firm regarding this. Subsequent to what Conseillère Lise has shared, I think that at the beginning, Council approved interim invoicing. C'était des factures intérimaires qui étaient identifiées sur la correspondance initiale. And at the same time, as mayor, I do have a right to defend myself when there was harassment complaints against me, which the outcome were that I was not guilty and doing my job and duty as mayor. And my last comment will be the fact that when this issue continued, it was not my personal interest when I weighed the decision of a conflict of interest. I weighed the interest of our taxpayers in the municipality to look at the issue of financial risk and the financial risk to the taxpayers and the municipality. I rest my case, and then whatever the outcome will be, I will ask for a recorded vote and at the same time stated my position of non-disclosure. And I did take the initiative to seek an advice, an opinion pertaining to this conflict of interest. And I was told, based on the fact that there's no check issued to the mayor, and what would happen if the payment is not made, that recourse would be towards the municipality. Therefore, it was identified not in a conflict. Thank you. Donc, là, j'ai vu des mains qui ont été soulevées, puis je vais faire un tour de table. No sense in dwelling on the issue, and I've asked for a recorded vote to proceed. Conseiller Yvon?
Madam Menace, you pretty well summed it all. And yes, I do agree we should pay the invoices as we did for others, and we should do it for our councillors. Thank you.
Conseiller Brûlé?
I say no, we don't pay that. This is this was not incurred by approval, so I'm saying no. Thank you.
Conseiller Chris?
So I just want to read, when to declare a direct pecuniary interest. A member may have a pecuniary interest when the result of a matter before council or the board could impact either positively or negatively the member's finances. It goes on and on. But if this is not a pecuniary interest, I don't know whatever could be, and I say no. Thank you.
Conseiller?
It is recorded, eh? Is it recorded, eh? The vote?
Well, there were people that had hands up, and I think, you know what? At the end of the day, I've requested a recorded vote. And I will ask the clerk to do a round table and to request the recorded vote.
Oh, no, we're allowed to talk to it.
Well,
You've
if
already
you wish to,
You've already granted people to talk about it, and you had a discussion on it, so everybody should have a chance, and you skipped Councillor Leo.
Oh, but we
Conseiller
can-
Dan, if you have questions, feel free, and no problem. Conseiller Leo?
Yeah, well, Madam Mayor, no, we already paid that bill. Maybe not that bill, but I mean, that was the original bill, we paid it. And I think paid the second bill. Thank you.
So right now, what we're doing is we're stating our position, so that's why I proceeded with the recorded vote, Conseiller Dan. So do you have a question pertaining to the issue, or is it to identify your position?
I'm allowed to have a statement like everybody else. Like Councillor, you gave Councillor Yvonne the floor to have his statement. So my statement is the following. The point is that, first of all, we're not talking conflict of interest. We're talking a pecuniary interest, declaration of pecuniary interest. Councillor Chris explained it properly, and it gave us the background to it. Furthermore, any things that are incurred, expenses incurred by council or by the municipality, there's a procurement process. This did not pass the procurement process. So here again, we are trying to break the rules to accommodate a payment that we should not be making. And that is not right. And the public should know that.
I'll have a response to your comment, but I will allow other members of council to be able to have their say and if they have an opinion. Conseiller Denis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to comment on Mr. Ravida's, Councillor Ravida's comment is, how can council pay half you guys already approved to pay half the bill, and now you're saying we don't have to pay the bill? So I think you guys are confused. You pay the bill or you don't pay it. So when you pay a bill, you don't pay half the bill. So I don't see what the objections are. It's just because it's the mayor. If it would be anybody else, you'd probably pay it. But how can you pay half the bill? Mr. Ravida says, this is not the right procedure, and he paid half the bill. So I hope the residents can see what's going on here. You're just attacking the mayor, and that's fine. But we won't go that low with us. We'll stay on our side. And it's unfortunate that it comes to this, but Mr. Ravida, you had your 5 minutes, and we should pay the bill. And if there's a conflict, there's an IC, you report it to the IC. There's no issues here.
Okay, so everyone has had the opportunity to have their say, so we're ready to proceed with a recorded vote.
Councillor Duhaime?
Councillor Duhaime, you're on mute.
Sorry, can't pay it.
Councillor Fisher?
No.
Councillor Larrabee?
No.
Councillor Mallette?
No?
Councillor Ravida?
No.
Councillor Denise Senecal?
Yeah, for sure.
Councillor Lee Senecal?
Yes.
Mayor Joanne Savage?
Yes.
Motion's defeated.
Thank you. On procède avec la prochaine item, E2, appointment to the West Nipissing Library Board. earlier, our first meeting of the month of May, it was identified, we received a letter from the library board. They were seeking an appointment to the library board because there was an elected official vacancy dating back to July 2020. And it was identified by the chair that there is a process, submit the interest to the mayor, and the mayor will make a recommendation to council. I did, and it's exciting, receive one interest from one member of council, Councillor Chris. And I was hoping to have the opportunity to have a brief discussion with Councillor Chris to proceed with the recommendation. The West Nipissing Library Board does not meet until the month of September. So I will bring back the resolution in July with the recommendation of the name of the councillor. But prior to doing the recommendation, I want to take the opportunity to have a brief discussion with Councillor Chris, as I normally do with other process for appointments to committees.
Madam Mayor, are you requesting this to be deferred, this next resolution?
Definitely, based on the fact of following due process pertaining to the recommendation done by the mayor once we've adopted. We discussed the process in May. So there's a request for it to be deferred till the next meeting and allow me the opportunity to speak with Councillor Chris. So, Conseiller Denis?
Well, I'm just wondering if Councillor Fisher is qualified to be on that committee, since the meeting that we had and we wanted to appoint someone, he voted against appointing somebody on the library committee. And he said that we should wait till they fill the vacant position in Verner. So Mr. Fisher is going against his vote. I don't know if that's legal. I don't think so. Either you're in or you're out. Thank you.
I would prefer having the opportunity with Councillor Chris, and I just want to discuss the issue about the needs for the board and frequency of meetings and so on. So, and that's part of the process pertaining to appointments recommendation by the mayor, and our procedural bylaw states that council supports the recommendation of the mayor. So like anything else, when there's recommendation, you want to feel comfortable that you've done your due diligence, and just a courtesy, have that discussion with Councillor Chris. And it's not going to delay the involvement on the West Nipissing Public Library Board, and we will have that vacancy filled for when they are scheduled to meet, and even ahead of time in the event that the CEO of the library board wants to meet with the new appointee and orientation and whatsoever.
I have a comment.
Any objections? I'm just looking for any objections based on the recommendation I provided that it be brought back in July. Aucune objection? Conseiller Denis?
I'll voice my opposition. Thank you.
Your opposition to?
Bringing it back to a vote. I don't think he qualifies. So.
Okay, well, we're not voting on the issue right now. Jay?
Is there I'm sorry, I don't have everything with me. Was there a resolution crafted?
Yes, there is. That's what I asked the mayor to.
There is. So the mayor is making a motion to defer the next meeting?
Yeah.
We would need a second.
And so there should be a seconder and voting on the motion to defer, right? Just procedural advice, sorry.
I'll second it.
And our vote on the deferral being tabled to the next meeting. Who's in support of the deferral?
Like, what is it? Like, what is the question now?
The question is.
Well, I think the mayor should be chairing that and calling question, but okay,
All
just
right.
helping you out. So Joanne should be calling. There's a
Not
motion to
Joanne, the
remove
mayor,
my-
Jay.
Pardon me?
The mayor, you said Joanne said. I was just
Yeah,
pointing
it's
out,
tough.
decorum.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's so tough navigating through this meeting, given the what's going on here. It's probably throwing us all off, Madam Mayor. So,
Well,
but
it
Madam
could
Mayor,
be.
you're working, whatever you want to be called. Yeah, whatever.
Well-
So just call the question. Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a point of clarification to our clerk pertaining to procedures. Since the resolution was not read because there was no name on the resolution, does it mean it's a motion to defer that resolution?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. So based on the courtesy of allowing the opportunity for the mayor to have a discussion with the individual, the counselor that submitted interest, to follow due process as per our procedural bylaw. Then there's a mover and a seconder that there's an agreement that it be deferred to July, brought back with a recommendation of Councillor Chris's name in July. So who's in favor that it be brought back in July? Est-ce que les gens ont compris?
Motion to defer is, I think the motion to defer is defeated, your worship.
Okay,
The resolution is on the floor. I'll need a mover and a seconder. And I'm assuming we're now voting on the application of Councillor Fisher.
No,
you know what? Add the name of Councillor Fisher, and it really defeats how we normally do business, and it was just as a courtesy. But add his name, because I want it to be known that I'm not looking at a delay in the appointment to the library board. And I was excited that there was finally one interest from a member of council in attempting to follow our due process. If it's going to be a roadblock in trying to follow procedures, just add Councillor Fisher's name and disregard the opportunity for the mayor to have a discussion with the elected official. That is unfortunate.
May I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Malette? I'm sorry, I didn't see who had the hand. Councillor Malette.
Conseil Mallette and Conseil Chris.
It was moved by Councillor Malette and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas the resignation of Councillor Jeremy Seguin created a council-appointed vacancy on the West Nipissing Public Library Board. And whereas at the meeting of May the 4th, 2021, the mayor invited members of council to submit their interest for appointment to the West Nipissing Public Library Board. Be it therefore resolved that having received expression of interest of Councillor Fisher be appointed to the West Nipissing Public Library Board for the remainder of the 2018-2022 term.
Conseil Elise.
well, it's voting, but I wish if it would have been in July and the process would have been followed, I would definitely vote for you, Councillor Fisher, for your interest. But now because people are voting against our procedure, I have to say no. Even if it's going to be defeat, I have to say no for the principle that we don't follow our procedure. The only time that it does, it's when it suit some councillor around the table. So that's my comment. So I'm saying no. I apologize. Get nothing personal against you, Councillor Fisher. But no.
Any other comments or questions? So I'm going to call it to a vote. Those in favor, en faveur? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Carried. Adopté. On procède avec les comptes et courriers, correspondance and accounts.
Your worship. E3, dates for summer meetings, please. You missed item E3.
Okay. We have a resolution for the council meetings during the summer months. Is there a mover and a seconder for that one resolution? Conseiller Leo? Conseiller Chris?
It was moved by Councillor Millet and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas during the meeting held on June the 1st, 2021, council considered proposed dates for summer council meetings for July and August 2021. Be it therefore resolved that the following dates be set for meetings of council to be held on Tuesday, July 13th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. and Tuesday, August 17th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m.
Aucune question, any questions? None? Carried, adopté. Minutes of May 4th council meeting, mover and a seconder. Conseiller Leo, Conseiller Yvon.
Moved by Councillor Millet and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of council held on May the 4th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any questions or comments? Aucune question ou commentaire? None? Carried, adopté. A mover and a seconder for F2 council special minutes, May 12th. Conseiller Denis, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Millet. Be it resolved that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on May the 12th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any questions or comments? Conseiller Lise.
Well, I do have a comment because, like I said, I stated and I did not declare a conflict of interest because first of all, we did not vote for the resolution at that meeting. We only had the discussion and it was very clearly identified. So I won't support those to vote on those minute because that was not, we talk about conflict of interest, but we did not declare a conflict of interest for the invoice because it was brought up tonight. So it's a mistake. So that need to be removed.
Okay, any objections that it be removed?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Conseiller Leo?
Well, these are not our minutes, or they're the clerk's minutes.
Oh.
So until they're approved by us, they're not our minutes.
No.
Well, we can approve them.
Conseiller Leo, if the action item does not define what was the action item, you have the right to make sure that the action item is clearly reflective to what occurred at the meeting. So yes, there could be modifications if it doesn't reflect the actual action item or if there is an error in the minutes. So that's clearly identified. We can do, and Conseiller Lise does have a point. In the closed session, there was discussion that a conflict would be declared when the vote of the invoice would take place and not for the discussion because there was a challenge and we haven't received the closed session minutes of May 12th to define exactly what was the action of the closed minute of May 12th. So I do concur with Conseiller Lise that it does not reflect the issue of the conflict. Conseiller Chris?
Wow.
So you did actually say at that meeting, you did declare a conflict and you did say that you would fill out the form. And I'm sorry I have to explain this, but there is no half conflict. Like once you declare a pecuniary interest, you read section 13, it's so clear. And, you know, as required by law, and you can't, you must refrain from taking part if it's enclosed. You must refrain from talking. You can't declare a conflict from a bit of something and not the rest. You either do or you don't. You guys did. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, maybe it doesn't make sense either, but then you know what? The discussion at that closed session, there were discussion and all members were part of that discussion. And it was stated that if there'd be a vote taken on the if there'd be a vote taken that evening, yes, a disclosure would be done for the vote. But after that meeting, then there was advice that was sought. So Conseil Elise is bringing up a good point, and I see that our CEO is nodding his head, so probably does not agree with a comment that has been shared. But that was the action that took place in the closed session. Conseil Dan?
Well, then I think that to clarify this issue, we should have Jay. And it's ironic that you say that at the discussion at the time, you said that you were going to declare a pecuniary interest at the next meeting when we vote on it, and you failed to. And you said it was based on information that you got after. I sort of have a doubt of that. But Jay, could you clarify what's been going around, please? I don't want you to answer, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask Jay.
If the chair recognizes me.
The chair will recognize the floor to you, Jay. So if you want to provide clarity to the question that's been asked by Conseiller Dan, that would be appreciated.
The comments, I'm not going to rule on what violations occurred or did not occur with respect to your differences of interpretation on conflict of interest. But in my opinion, Melanie's minutes are accurate, that the declaration was given. Then the debate happened as to what the meaning of the declaration was, but that I don't believe that based on Melanie's interpretation of it, that she should alter the minutes unless there's a definite vote in favor of altering the minutes. But I was actually present at that meeting, and it wasn't, there was a debate on what declaring a conflict was, whether you can participate in the discussion after you declared, and you clearly said that you could. And then you also talked about, quorum after. So clearly the intent was to declare, since you said that. So I believe the minutes are accurate. So if you want to vote to amend the minutes, please do so. And if you want to vote to approve or vote down the minutes, that's obviously council's choice. Makes no difference to staff.
Okay, thank you for the point of clarification regarding that. But coming back to your comment, Conseiller Dan, before making accusation that there is an individual of pecuniary interest, that information was shared previously and was quantified. And you have the right, as far as a recourse, if you do not believe, or if you doubt, or if you don't have faith in the integrity of the information that's being shared. So,
Councillor Rowley has his hand up.
Conseiller Dan, I'm chairing the meeting and I saw that his hand is up and I was providing the floor. So please stop with the interruption. That would be greatly appreciated. Conseiller Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just got a question for Councillor Elise. Since she stated that she got some advice or an opinion after the meeting, are we going to get a bill for that?
No, because it's part of the agreement that we have with our IC that we can call if we have any question pertaining to our code of conduct, Councillor Rowley. So there will be probably a small invoice answer the question. And like I said, then there will be, and he was there last week. I didn't want to put him on the spot, but if you want to, you should have asked him if you were so sure that we were in a conflict. And listen to the meeting. How can we said was clear that we would vote at that point of time. And point of order, I have the right to clarify.
My question was if we're going to get a bill. That's all.
Well, we're not going to get a bill. You're not going to get a bill, but there's a bill that's going to be given. Yes.
Thank you.
And it will be anyways.
Okay, so I just wanted to highlight just a correction because it wasn't, it's 2021 versus 2020, like May 12th, 2020, to be amended to 2021.
That is a typo.
That's what I thought. Conseiller Dan? Pardon? You're on mute, Conseiller Dan.
So we're going to vote on this?
Well,
Go to the minutes.
we're going to be voting on the resolution of the minutes as amended, changing
No,
the title.
as presented, not as amended, Madam Mayor.
Okay,
The minute as presented.
as presented.
My recommendation was that the recommendation for the amendment that the mayor was proposing be voted on. If you're in agreement with the change the mayor was doing prior to voting on the actual minutes, that's procedure.
And that's what I was, okay.
Okay, so you,
So,
excuse me.
Conseiller
can
Alice,
I just have a
Conseiller,
question.
ask
Okay,
the question, please.
I just want, okay, so we're gonna be doing two vote, one for the amendment and one for the meeting. The minute.
No.
right, Jay?
No.
Well, we're going
That's
to
what was being proposed. If you go back, sorry, should I respond? I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I wasn't recognized. Do you want to respond? Or do you
Well,
want
I
me
was
to?
just going to respond, Jay, that there's been a proposed amendment for removal of the information under Section 8 and ask who supports that it be removed from the minutes as amended. But we need a mover and a seconder for the amendment that's proposed, correct?
That's correct.
So there's a mover and a seconder that's required for the proposed amendment. Conseiller Yvon? Conseiller Alice?
So
Who's the-
it is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal that the statement under item A, under the declaration of pecuniary interest, be removed from the minutes.
Who is in favor of the proposed amendment? Defeated. Now, coming back to the initial resolution, did we have a mover and a seconder? We did, eh?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and that resolution was already read?
Correct.
Okay, so
You want it to be reread?
no, I think I just wanted to make sure that we had done it. So who is,
Please, could you reread it so we're all on the same page?
okay, Conseiller Broley, just make sure that you ask the question through the chair. So if that's your
Yes.
wish, I'll ask the clerk to reread the resolution.
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on May 12, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Those in favor, en faveur? Adopté, carried. On procède avec la prochaine résolution. The resolution to adopt the June 1st council minutes. A mover and a seconder. Conseiller Leo. Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of council held on June the 1st, 2020 be adopted as presented.
Are there any questions or comments? None? Carried, adopted. The next resolution, F4, to adopt the minutes from various boards and committees. Mover and seconder. Conseiller Denis. Conseiller Leo.
Moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following boards and committees be received. West Nipissing Committee of Adjustment, April 12th, 2021. Oshachua Board of Management, March 18th, 2021. West Nipissing Public Library Board, April 8th, 2021. DSAB, March 24th, 2021, April 28th, 2021. And North Bay Prairie Sound District Health Unit, February 24th, 2021.
All in favor? Carried, adopted. to receive the March disbursement reports. Mover and a seconder. Conseiller Dan, Conseiller Denis.
Was moved by Councillor Revita and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Be it resolved that the accounts payable disbursement sheets for March 2021 be received.
Any questions? Conseiller Lise.
Oui, juste une question, number 599, 87,029 capital project, but there's a minus. What does it mean? I know you had explained it once, Alicia, but what does it mean when it's like it's a minus? So it was paid, then, you on mic, Alicia, thank you.
Yeah, so what happens with how the export comes out is that when our amounts go to holdback, you're seeing them as negatives.
And holdbacks mean what again?
Holdbacks are on construction projects. Holdback means, they might bill us for $800,000, but we're only going to pay $720,000. We hold back until make sure that all their suppliers are paid, all their subs are paid,
Okay.
everything's in good shape.
And at the end, you got to pay the difference.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm sorry about that I asked again. You had explained it, but I had forgot. So hopefully next time I'll remember. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? I had just one question. Line number 251, KMPG LLP special project. It's under line 251, page 4 of the disbursement report. What's the actual project?
That's the ongoing operational review. That's an installment payment on the operational review.
Oh, okay. Is the project completed?
We have had drafts. We're just going back and forth with drafts right now where we are close to that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Those in favor, en faveur? Okay, I'm not seeing enough hands to support the resolution to approve the disbursements. Now I do. Carried, adopted. Okay, the next item is correspondence that was received from the Integrity Commissioner findings, investigation number 25. The supporting documentation that was provided, the report from the IC is included in our package. Because this is the first occurrence that we get in this fashion where it's added to our agenda. What I'll do is just provide brief notes pertaining to the report, allow the opportunity to the councillor to have some comments to it. And also there's a recommendation by the IC, and we'll also provide the floor to the councillor that submitted the complaint, and then proceed with council's decision pertaining to the recommendation, because as explained from our IC, the recommendation is either supported, not supported, or amended. So according to the actual report, complaint submitted by Councillor Denise Senecal versus Councillor Chris Fisher, alleging inappropriate content of an email that dates back November 2020. There was an investigation process, and the length of the time for the investigation, as our IC explained, there's information that's sought from the other party if there's an investigation. So there's a provision of time that was given up to February 2021, with an additional extension going up to March 2021, but there was no response or explanation provided to the IC. The IC made the determination that there was a contravention to the code of conduct and identified that the use of vulgar language directed at a counselor for all members of council to see and read was inappropriate. The recommendation is also identified on the report. So, Councillor Chris, did you have any comments or a say pertaining to the report that was provided to council dated back to April?
No, I have no comments. I have no problem apologizing for my use of vulgar language. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, what's being proposed is a recommendation letter of apology, and I will ask Conseiller Denis Sénécal if he has any comments pertaining to the recommendation or the report provided by the IC.
I do have, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have opposition to the recommendations, that's for sure, but I just want to, since this is public, I want to say that what Mr. or Councillor Fisher has said to me or written to me in an email, I'd like to repeat it so everybody knows. What is it like being a lying piece of shit? Report me, please. So he vilified the council members. He vilified the police board because this conversation was under the police board, and he is chair of the police board, and he vilified the board. He vilified the community. If anybody out of the community heard this, they must think what kind of people are they. And there's not too much I can say besides I'm very disappointed. And I hope that we can, as a council, decide what's appropriate for a comment like this. I think it's going to be setting a precedence for others. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that a councillor would address another councillor with so little respect. Even if we don't like each other, we all keep our tongue sometimes. So it's a matter of having a little bit of class. So having said that, I can go all night, and I'm not going to do it. But
No.
My recommendation to council is that Mr. Fisher, how do you say that? Buys a quarter page of the Tribune, in the Tribune, so the community knows what he did.
Okay, so
I'm not done. I'm not done here.
Just a
I'm
second.
not done.
I'm not
Just a second,
I have to
Conseiller
declare
Chris.
your interest at this point in time, because now, before I didn't have a conflict, but now I do have a conflict, because.
No. Conseiller
Yes, I
Chris.
do have a conflict now.
Okay,
Sorry, I
just,
had the floor, Madam Mayor.
okay.
Madam Mayor,
So-
First of all,
I'm going to leave the meeting. I have a conflict.
Okay, Conseiller Chris, if you want to leave the meeting because you have a conflict, that is left to your discretion. Conseiller Denis, please proceed.
So as I was saying, my proposal would be that Mr. Councillor Fisher be asked to buy a quarter page in the Tribune, and to all council and to the police board, and to excuse himself from doing this. I would like a sincere apology to all parties involved that he has used his vulgar language to vilify. Therefore, that's my recommendation, is to have him issue a statement publicly in the Tribune. Maybe a quarter page would be appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. So based on the recommendation identified by Conseiller Denis, he's requested an apology in our local newspaper as a paid advertisement, apologizing to all stakeholders, if I understood correctly, to members of council and police board members. Is that what you're saying, Conseiller Denis? I just want to make sure.
Yes, and also all the community. He has insulted the whole community by using such vulgar language.
Okay, but the vulgar language was identified to elected officials, so what we're looking at is an apology using that vulgar language towards another elected official who is a councillor and a police board member. Okay.
Also reflects on the whole community, Madam Mayor.
Well, okay.
I'm not going to argue the point.
No. So you know what? I'm just going to proceed to call it to a vote based on the recommendation that you have highlighted, Conseiller Denis, and find out what's the direction of council. So who would support that there'd be a paid apology done in the local newspaper towards the affected individuals identified by Conseiller Denis? So can I see who would support the recommendation that Conseiller Denis is providing? So 1, 2, 3, 4, carried. The next item, F7. Sorry. Before proceeding to F7, do we need a resolution regarding the recommendation proposed by Conseiller Denis for that resolution to be voted on? I'm seeking direction from our clerk. You're on mute.
I'm just turning on. I didn't put one on because there was a recommendation by the IC included in the correspondence that I thought would be discussed and that it would be, direction would be given. I didn't put it on as a resolution.
Okay. And yeah, but now there's a motion on the floor pertaining to a recommendation that's slightly different than the recommendation from the IC and the recommendation that Conseiller Denis proposed. So since this already dates back more than a month, the recommendation is, can you put a resolution together and we'll call it to a vote?
Yeah.
Conseiller Dan?
Madam Chair, I just wonder, what are we talking about? Can you please be more clear on this? We voted that on the recommendation that Councillor Denis provided. And now what are we doing now? Because I think it's kind of harsh what Councillor Denis is recommending.
Well,
let me finish, please. Before
you asked a question.
Before you start getting at me again.
I know.
Let me finish. And the thing, so what are we voting? Like, did we vote on that we're forcing Councillor Chris to take a half page in the Tribune apologizing?
No. There was a recommendation. I wish to clarify, Conseiller Dan, you asked the question, what are we doing? Is we voted, but we voted without a resolution. So I've asked the clerk to put the resolution together. So the resolution will reflect what we're voting on.
So we're going to revote that.
Well, it's the same.
Well, we're going to make it formal, okay?
So we're going to vote again. That's all I just want to know. Are we voting?
It will be formal. So I've answered your question. So the recommendation of Conseiller Denis is for Councillor Chris to provide a public paid apology. He made reference to a quarter page, but identifying the apology towards himself as a councillor, police board member, and that there's a public apology done in that forum.
Should that go on next meeting, Madam Mayor?
You know what,
It's not on the agenda.
You know what, we are dealing with the issue of the recommendation, and to put closure to the recommendation, I've asked the clerk to draft a resolution so we can vote on the issue.
But I thought it should go to the next meeting.
It does not necessarily have to go to the next meeting, and I'm making that call due to the fact that this subject matter had been brought forward from one agenda to another agenda, and we're heading into the month of July, and the whole objective of this meeting was to be able to deal with the matters that had been deferred due to time restraint. So the clerk is drafting the resolution. We'll vote on the resolution.
Madam Chair, my hand
But
is
there
up.
was a resolution on the agenda.
Is the resolution,
I'm just seeking clarification, Your Worship, on what exactly is the recommendation and the request of Councillor Senecal.
I believe it.
I've heard
Hey.
half page, quarter page. I'm just unclear as to what is being asked here.
Conseil Denis, you are on mute right now. So what
Okay.
was the,
Want me to
Your-
proceed? Well, I want a quarter page taken by our Councillor Fisher in the Tribune, publicly apologizing for the vulgar language, and you must apologize to the council, the police board. That's what I expect, and I would like at least a sincere apology.
May I have clarification, please?
I want to ask a question to the
Shirley?
clerk.
Yes, Your Worship.
Was that enough information to draft the resolution?
I believe so.
Okay.
I will need a mover and a seconder for that, please.
Is there a mover and a seconder for the
Sure.
resolution? Conseil Elise, Conseil Denis.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Be it resolved that Councillor Fisher be required to provide a public apology to the West Nipissing Council and the West Nipissing Police Board by way of an advertisement in the Tribune, 1/4 page.
Those in favor, en faveur? Adopté, carried. On procède avec Conseil Dan.
Councillor Fisher would have not been in conflict in this. He could have voted, and you never asked for a recorded vote.
Conseil
I-
Dan. Conseil
Nope.
Dan. Conseil Dan, may I clarify the issue? Councillor Chris stood up, said, I'm in a conflict, he leaves. We have the
Fine,
discussion.
it's fine. Just let's move on.
So, I mean, this is being highly technical when it's not conducive or trying to circumvent the process.
No, I'm not trying to circumvent.
Well,
process.
it's
Sorry.
my personal opinion, Conseil Dan. On procède avec l'item numéro F7, qui est de la correspondance qu'on a reçue, est-ce qu'il traite une investigation numéro 29 with the findings of the Integrity Commissioner pertaining to an investigation that was done for number 29. The report was provided to members of council. It had to do regarding a complaint from a constituent dating back in 2020 regarding inappropriate postings on social media. As for the investigation conducted by the IC identified the process pertaining to obtaining additional information. And in conclusion, the recommendation of the IC was that it was inappropriate pertaining to comments that were shared to the constituent, and has made a determination that it was a violation to the code of conduct for using such vulgarities directed at a constituent in a public forum for everyone to see and read. And the recommendation here is a letter of apology to be posted in the same group, Werner Onspal, Let's Talk, which is a social media group. So that's the actual report that was submitted from the IC pertaining to the outcome of the investigation. And again, here, what I'll do is I'll provide the opportunity to the affected counselor, Counselor Chris. Do you have any comments or any say pertaining to this investigation findings? And
Yeah, this one I disagree with. And again, I didn't answer this one because I'm trying to save money for the taxpayer. As for an apology, I blocked this person on social media anyway. And I don't see this as a conflict, so I'm going to vote on this. Unless you want me to pull out another quarter-page ad, that is, thank you.
okay. Well, when it comes to, you can decide what you do, Conseiller Chris, if you vote on the issue or if you don't vote on the issue, because I stand firm at what I said at the beginning. Only the individual does self-disclosure pertaining to conflicts or not conflict. It's not up to other members or staff to make reference to conflict of interest. Pertaining to the process, my understanding from discussions with the IC, we get a report if there's a violation. It's fair that the individual that was accused has the opportunity to have their say. However, there is a mechanism if you don't agree with the findings of the IC, if you don't support the recommendation of the IC, one can always appeal the process. That's the understanding. But I'm also was made aware that we have that discussion in an open meeting. You have your say, but when it comes to the recommendation pertaining to either support, not support, or amend, the party that has been proven guilty is excluded from the vote. So, discussion on that subject matter. There's a recommendation for a public apology using the same social media group and to ensure that there's an apology.
Point of order. By that logic, if you want to exclude me from this vote, then Dennis should have excluded himself from the last vote using the same logic. Thank you.
Sorry, I did not even understand what you just said.
You're saying that I have to exclude myself from the vote this time, and I'm disagreeing with you because by the logic you're using, then Dennis shouldn't have voted last time. You understand? Do you follow?
Denis was not the one that violated the code of conduct, Conseiller Chris. So Denis had the. So I'm just saying, as far as process, if you don't agree with the outcome of the investigation, an individual can appeal the outcome of the investigation. So there's a recommendation on the floor that there's a recommendation by the IC that there be a public apology provided towards the constituent to whom level of stupid was named on a social media forum. Werner Onsepau, let's talk. And that's the recommendation of the IC. So based on that, who does support the recommendation of the IC? So, carried. Jay?
Well, just thought I'd put my 2 cents in here. I believe your last resolution wasn't, do you understand the term, because you've been researching this, Madam Mayor, ultra vires, which means outside the scope of your authority. I don't believe that council has the authority to impose financial penalties through the IC process other than loss of pay. There's apologies and that kind of thing, but I think that that's subject to investigation. But I'm pretty sure that resolution wasn't actually legal. So having said that, I leave that to you.
Well, I'll clarify the issue, Jay. Thank you for providing that comment. I did check into it. And when it comes to a recommendation of the IC, you either support the recommendation or you do not support the recommendation, or you can seek an amended recommendation. However, one has to keep in mind that whatever sanction goes according to the severity. You're not going to be, it would not seem realistic, anyone that would impose a sanction that would retain pay or whatsoever when we've read other IC reports. So
I just stand by my comment.
Yeah. So I'm just explaining what I've been told, and I'm coming back. We did adopt a resolution, and for F6, I'd like to see a resolution for F7 with the recommendation that there'd be a public apology to the constituent on the social media forum, Werner Osapal, Let's Talk, regarding
As recommended by the IC.
as recommended by the IC. Just the resolution that council supports the recommendation as provided by the IC in the report for investigation number 29.
Could I just make one further comment?
Yes, you are allowed, Councillor Chris.
The statement here that is being said, is a vulgarity. Well, I don't believe it is, and it's a statement of fact. There are levels of stupid. I didn't actually say you're stupid or whatever. So basically, you can misconstrue this any way you want, but there is no crime in it. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment to enlighten the issue, but it's not my job to be the IC and do the investigation and provide the findings. Conseil Dan? You're on mute, Conseil Dan.
Although we shouldn't be voting on a recommendation that was not there prior, can you reread the recommendation, Madam Clerk? Because I think, again, things are not clear again.
Our
Are
clerk
you, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, Councillor, are you requesting I read the last sentence in the correspondence from the IC?
No, I'd like you to read what we're going to be voting on.
Well, that's what she's going to do. Give her just a few minutes.
I would need a mover and a seconder, please.
Conseil Elise, Conseil Denis.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. And be it resolved that council supports the recommendation of the Integrity Commissioner regarding the outcomes of investigation number 29.
Any questions? So I think it's clear. Those in favor, à favor? Carried. On procède avec la séance à huis clos with closed session. There needs to be a mover and a seconder. Conseil Elise, Conseil Léo.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Millet. Be it resolved that we proceed into closed meeting as authorized in section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to discuss the following: personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purposes, regarding a human resources investigation, regarding a CAO unresolved complaint, and procurement process on a tender file.
Those in favor, à favor? Adopté, carried.
Just give me a minute. I need to turn off the live stream.